We're going to take a look at creating shapes in Adobe Photoshop. Now, while primarily in Photoshop, we're going to be working with pictures and pixels, there are times where we want to make shapes. So I just want to cover some of that basic ground of making shapes here in Photoshop. So first off, I'm just going to make a rectangle or use the rectangle tool. I can make a square. I'll hold down the Shift key to keep that the same. Now, you'll notice that when I did that, it did it onto a new layer that it called rectangle. If I were to take my circle, ellipse tool, and make a circle while that rectangle is selected, it's going to make that ellipse on that same layer. That's important because once I click away from the circle, if I try and resize the circle, it's going to be tied to the square. So in Photoshop, if you want to keep things like that separate, you need to click away so you have nothing selected, and you can either make a new layer or just create that new shape, and it will automatically make a new layer with that shape on it. And now you have all the controls that you would want for that shape, okay? Changing the colors of your shapes is a little different. You're gonna find it in the properties panel. If you just select that shape and you drag along up here, it's not gonna change that color. In order to actually change the color of the shape, you either need to change the appearance here. There is also a paint bucket tool that will work in Photoshop once you rasterize the layer. So let's keep going with our shapes here though. We've got a triangle, so we'll make our triangle. And notice that I did that on my rectangle layer, so it got stuck with it. So again, you really do have to remember that, and I did not mean to do that, but it is a good little reminder, right? So things will kind of lump themselves together if you don't make a concerted effort to keep them separate. Oops. All right. Now with my hexagon here, you notice that I actually had a pentagon. I can change the number of sides up here at the top, but I will have to draw it again. Go away. So click away, get that. And it should be set to 6 sides. No? I typed out 6 before. Oh, it's because it did 6 sides. I typed out 6, but that was, I'm just losing my mind, guys. So, I wanted 5 sides. So I just changed this down to 5 up at the top toolbar. Maybe. There we go. And now when I draw this, it should be a 5-sided pentagon. Okay, so now the last thing, and this is where we do get something different, is we can go to the custom shape tool. Now the default shape in the custom shape tool is this really cool panther, all right? But we want to obviously create a fox. And so what you can do is you can come and click on the top where it says shape, and then you can go to wild animals, and then we can find that fox on our list of wild animals right there. And now we can draw the fox. Okay. So I want to also, along with our shapes, talk a little bit more about transform controls. That's the, the little boxes that we can use to change the size of something. So we're going to make a deer. All right. And you're going to start by just making the deer. It's a great little deer there. Okay. And we're just going to make copies of the deer. So we're just going to make a few copies of the deer. We're just going to make them for each of these spots. All right. That way they'll be separate layers and that'll all work. And now we want to try and mimic what we have happening over here. Now, in order to flip an object, what we're going to do is we have to select that layer and we hit Control T, and you'll actually see in this bottom toolbar, you'll see the options for flipping horizontal and flipping vertical, or you can right click and you're going to see them down here at the bottom. Notice there's a bunch of different options. We'll just flip that one horizontal. And then once we've done that, we have to hit the check mark in order to actually apply that. Hit Control T again. We're going to flip this one vertical, hit the check mark or enter. And then on this next one, though, we're going to try out skew. So there are these options down here with scale, rotate, skew, distort, and perspective. Scale and rotate we're pretty familiar with. With skew, when you grab a corner, it's going to, skew your shape, okay? And as you grab different corners, it's going to skew it in different ways. So you can just, that's all I did for the skew on that one. And then Control T again, right click, and you can choose distort. There's also perspective. We'll just use distort. We'll grab a corner, and you can see as we grab this corner, it's going to kind of distort and warp this guy around. And so again, we'll just kind of match it to be close. I'm not going to be a big stickler on it doesn't look exactly like mine. And then once you have that, you've learned some of the basics of creating shapes and also working with the transform controls in Adobe Photoshop.